Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm here with a very special guest, Dr. Justine Dowd. She is currently a postdoc at the University of Calgary, and she's going to speak with us today about self-compassion and the role that that's played in your life and some of your work around it. So why don't you start by sharing with us a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me here, Casey. It's a pleasure to be a part of Worthy and Well. So right now I'm working at the University of Calgary, and my research and interest in the area of celiac self-compassion comes from actually my diagnosis with celiac disease. Mm-hmm. And so I was diagnosed a little bit over 6 years ago now, and so throughout my my journey, I've definitely been through a number of ups and downs. Mm-hmm. And so as I've been researching self-compassion and for my academic work, I've also noticed that it's helped me on a personal level and in a number of ways as well.
Awesome. And how would you define self-compassion? Like, I think some of the viewers, this might be their first exposure to that word, self-compassion. So yeah, just tell us a little bit more about what that even means.
Sure, so it's a great question. So self-compassion is just simply giving ourselves the same kindness that we would give to someone else. Mm-hmm. So I often start many of my talks by simply asking people to reflect on how they would treat someone else. If they're struggling and they come to you for love or support and advice on what to do, reflect on how you treat them.
Right.
And then take a few moments to reflect on when you go through something difficult, how do you act? How do you treat yourself? And how does that make you feel?
Right.
And so many people notice they're often kinder to other people than they are to themselves.
That's absolutely true. I think we see that all the time, the like beating yourself up, and I see that often with women when we're talking about body image and you know, maybe the difficulties that can come up with following through with health behaviors. They can get really frustrated and down on themselves and say really mean words. Mm-hmm. So you're saying, you know, would you say those words to a close friend?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think by simply asking someone that question to reflect on it really makes people start to become aware of, wow, I actually can be a bit of a bully to myself.
Of course. Yeah. And when you talk about self-compassion and we discuss it in the realms of health and wellness, how do you think self-compassion plays into holistic wellness? What role does it play?
Well, Casey, as I'm sure you're aware, feelings of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and stress are incredibly common in society today. Mm-hmm. And they're particularly common among anyone who's just simply trying to achieve goals in their life. So whether this is you're trying to change your behavior and become more physically active, change your diet, quit smoking, or whatever it is, these feelings can be particularly hard, and we can be really hard on ourselves. And so as we start on our wellness journey, self-compassion can be a key part of that, because it helps you to actually take care of yourself so that you can achieve the goals in your life that you want to achieve and that are important to you.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned that it's basically treating yourself like you would a close friend, but can you break down self-compassion into its parts? Like, how do we actually practically practice self-compassion and make it more of a part of our day-to-day?
So the way that the researchers have developed define self-compassion is in three different components. So it's made up of self-kindness rather than self-criticism. So this means just simply being aware of those thoughts that can go through your head, and if they're negative, trying to replace them with more positive ones. A sense of common humanity rather than feeling isolated. So this simply means that if you're going through a difficult situation, recognizing that you're not the only person who's been there before. Part of being human is going through difficult situations and trying not to feel isolated and saying, I'm the only one, I'm terrible, or any of those negative thoughts.
Right.
Recognizing other people have been there too. And then the third part involves mindfulness rather than...
Love mindfulness.
It's a very key part. And there's a lot of mindfulness interventions these days. And the research is actually showing that one of the reasons they might be so effective is because they're cultivating self-compassion. So mindfulness is a very key part of self-compassion. But I think that those other two components, the common humanity and self-kindness, are also key to really embracing and practicing it in your own life.
Right. So what would be your top 3 tips then for someone who's trying to get started to begin to be on this path of self-compassion and integrate those 3 steps, the self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness? What would be your tips for someone getting started with a practice of self-compassion.
Right. So I think one of the best ways to start is to become aware of your current behavior and or current thought patterns.
Right.
And so maybe you just decide for a week, okay, I'm just going to keep track of it. Maybe you write it down or just make a mental note of some of the ways that you're talking to yourself and what are those thoughts that go through your head. So just take a week to recognize and observe what's going on. Try not to be judgmental or harsh on yourself. Just recognize, okay, where am I at right now? And then after that week, you can start to make some changes. You might notice certain situations that trigger negative thought patterns. And then you can start to think about what could help you. And so I think a key part is meditation. And so there's some great resources out there. I know you offer different yoga and mindfulness meditations that people can do. There's some really good apps that you can download as well. I really like the Calm app.
Oh yes, I've used that one before.
Yeah, I think that one's great. So starting to incorporate some sort of mindfulness, some meditation into your day. Maybe you just wake up and you spend 3 minutes every morning just taking some deep breaths or listening to a guided meditation.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think it's really important to surround yourself by other supportive people. So tell people that you're trying to make this change in your life. And if you notice some people are particularly negative, take a couple of weeks break from them because that won't help you on your journey.
And I really think taking that concept of almost unsubscribing from the people that are negative, but also looking at your access to social media and all these other ways that you can be taking in messages, and do they promote you feeling worthless, crappy about yourself, just not confident, or do they promote self-compassion? Do they promote mindfulness and positivity? So like you could take that a step further, surrounding yourself by positive people, but then also surrounding your mind with just positive messages and unsubscribing from the rest.
Oh, I think that's a very key part of it. And as I actually went through some personal struggles in getting pregnant, and I decided that I needed to just cut myself off from all social media because there's so many messages that everyone else gets pregnant, no problem, and that everyone has these beautiful, healthy babies, no problem. And I found that was one of the hardest things for me in trying to be self-compassionate. So whenever I looked on social media, I immediately turned on myself. And so taking several months away from it all was night and day difference in terms of practicing self-compassion through my own struggle.
And it's amazing how you initially entered into the self-compassion work through your academics and celiac disease specifically, which some of the viewers might be have that diagnosis of celiac disease, but then also how those same tools are transferable to literally anything that you might be struggling with or that might make you feel like there's something wrong with you or something that's hard that you're dealing with. You can use self-compassion for anything, so it can be super powerful.
Absolutely.
Right. So Justine, you also have some research studies happening here at the university that I think will be really exciting to share with some of the viewers in case you want to jump on board, in case they want to jump on board with some of your research. So tell us more about what you have going on and how people can connect with you and maybe even get enrolled in this study.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Casey.
Yeah.
So we have 2 studies right now that we're running. One is called MOVE-C. And so this is a study where we're looking at understanding the relationship between the microbiome, vitality, and exercise. So basically trying to get people who are diagnosed with celiac disease to become more physically active. And then we're looking at the results on their quality of life and the balance of their microbiome. Nice. And so that's a free study that's actually starting in January 2017. But we're looking for people to sign up right away. So if you're interested, please send us an email, celiac@ucalgary.ca. Information will be at the bottom of this page as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely add any additional links to this page, so no worries about that.
Perfect. So that first one is the exercise study, and that'll be running at the university. And then the second one is actually an online program, and it's available for anyone across North America.
That's amazing.
Who's diagnosed with celiac disease. And so it's an online, it's an 8-week program that involves 4 bi-weekly modules, and people complete it at their own pace, and it involves a variety of different evidence-based strategies to help you better manage celiac disease. So if you feel like you're struggling or you're newly diagnosed, please check out these programs. We're getting some great feedback on them, and I'd love to hear what you think so that we can make them even better down the road.
Self-compassion is a part of those programs as well? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, to a certain extent.
Sounds like there's a lot of holistic education that's going into that.
And then the last part that we actually created over the past year was actually an app, and we've created the first evidence-based app specifically for people who are struggling with digestive issues. So we have a free app that you can download. It's called My Healthy Gut. Right now it's only for iOS devices, but in the new year we hope to release it for Android. And then you can actually purchase the disease-specific information for celiac disease or gluten intolerance as well.
That'll be super helpful for, I know, some of the viewers of this video. Certainly I work with people who have celiac disease, irritable bowel syndrome, other digestive concerns, even just bloating and gas. And it's nice that this app, My Healthy Gut, can really help with understanding the patterns and figuring out the food stuff and all of that. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today and creating space in your schedule to do this interview. And I'm really looking forward to everyone's feedback and so glad that I could help to share some of this amazing work on self-compassion and celiac disease with my worthy and well people. So thanks again, Justine.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me, Casey.
My pleasure.
Take care.
You too.
Just check the hairs. We're good.
I wonder if I should. Should I care forward or back?
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Pregnant lady?
Oh, of course. No, tell
Okay.
me what to do. You're the director.
So,
and my primary,
let's start again.
Okay.